hi everyone, good morning. My name is Craig. I'm the president of Eliquo Training. I want to thank you for joining us this morning for our webinar. We're going to take you through a pathway of Microsoft Office document with respect to accessibility. Before we get started, just wanted to do a quick introduction. For those of you who are not aware of who Eliquo is, we're a training company. We got started in training back in 2002. We focus on design and digital content training. So that's everything to do with, web design, graphic design, publishing, video, digital marketing, e-learning, and of course, everything to do with making all that digital content accessible. We have pretty deep roots with respect to making digital content accessible. We started teaching courses back in 2003. We started with a couple of courses, one on web accessibility and one on PDF accessibility. I think we're probably the first company in Canada to do that. We started teaching people how to make PDFs accessible using Adobe Acrobat Pro version 5. So we go quite a ways back. Our offering in accessibility training has grown significantly. We have about 25 different courses for various different production disciplines. And every month we run about 8 to 12 of those courses for all of our clients that come through here. We are, this is Mike. Mike is our senior web instructor. Mike's been with us since 2013. He is a lover of all things web and as well all things Tesla. So if you are a Tesla fan, I'm going to give Mike a plug here. He's got a great YouTube channel called Tesla Canadian Dad. He does some really, really awesome videos. So if that's your thing, go visit him. Otherwise, if accessibility is your thing, you're also in the right place. Mike's going to take us through about a 40-minute presentation here on Microsoft Word accessibility, 4 key aspects, things that you hopefully will either help you validate your knowledge, or we're going to teach you a little something and help you make your content just a little bit more accessible. Before I turn the mic over to Mike, I'd just like to let you know that we do have a short survey at the end of the webinar. I please ask you to complete it before you run off. And it's not we're not collecting information about you. We just really want some feedback on the presentation. How did we do? Did it meet your expectations? And what subject matter would you like to learn about at a later date? So with all that being said, thank you for joining us today. We hope that this is really informative. You get something out of it. And I'm going to pass the microphone back to Mike. There you go.
All right. Thank you again, Craig. So beautiful. Okay. So now you should be able to see my screen in about 2 seconds here. I'm just going to go ahead and remove my face and share my screen instead, which is going to be the start here of taking a look at Microsoft Word. Okay, so just going to confirm sharing. You should be seeing my screen if you want to just quickly confirm. Okay, so we have some users that are saying yes, some users no. In the GoToWebinar, just swipe potentially left or right, and you should be able to see my screen. No, not yet. Again, if I switch this up here, you should see Microsoft Office at this point in time. So we're going to go ahead and concentrate on the 4 main areas of making a document in Microsoft Word accessible. Is this everything that you need to do to make the document completely accessible? No, we're going to give you a little bit of the more important elements of it. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, we do offer a 1-day class on making Word documents completely accessible. So again, here we're going to go 40 minutes and concentrate on the 4 main areas, which is styles, alternative text, tables, and what not to do with them, as well as exporting options to PDFs. So those are the 4 things we're going to concentrate on here today. And of course, you can follow along if you want to do it as well. You're more than welcome to. I'm not expecting you to, but again, you're more than welcome to follow along and do exactly what I'm doing in your own document if you want to. So first things first is we will need some content to, of course, work with at this point in time. A blank document is not very useful. So we're just going to render 20 random paragraphs here for us. so that we can get started. Okay, so little trick in Microsoft Word, a little code called equal rand, open parentheses. In this case, I put 20 for 20 paragraphs, close parentheses, and once I press enter, boom, it's actually writing 20 different paragraphs for us to kind of play around with throughout the day here today. So again, a little trick there. And the first thing we're going to go ahead and talk about is probably the most important elements of Microsoft Word accessibility, and that is styles. Okay, of course we have different styles inside Microsoft Word, but there's something really important about them, and when it comes to accessibility, it is very, very important that you use these styles properly. Now, one of the big challenges for accessibility is to make documents available to visually impaired users that potentially cannot see the screen or have low vision. Now, these users are using a software called a screen reader. Now, there's three primary screen readers in the market here today. We have NVDA, JAWS, and VoiceOver. These three screen readers read the content out loud to visually impaired users that cannot see the screen or have potentially low vision. The way they navigate a document is really important to understand, because when you're building your document, you want to accommodate these screen reader users. And the number one way a screen reader user will actually navigate a document in Microsoft Word or in the web would be through headings. Headings, headings, headings. Now in Microsoft Word, there's pretty much unlimited amount of headings, but in the accessibility world, it's limited to 6 heading levels. Okay. If you export your document to a PDF, it's also limited to 6 heading levels. And in the web world, if you ever convert the document to the web, it's again limited to 6 heading levels. Now, if I were to actually go before the first paragraph, and this is the main subject of this document that I'm working in, let's say learning Microsoft Word accessibility. Whoop. Here we go. At that point, this is the title of this document I'm working in. Because it's a title that I'm working in, I'm more likely to go in my styles and use title, right? Wrong. That would be incorrect. Okay. What you want to do for the main title of your document is actually choose heading level 1. That title style there that you see, pretend it doesn't exist. It's not there. It's just visual. It doesn't have what we call semantic value, which means if Microsoft Word can't pass along to a screen reader what this element is, it has no meaning. It's just visual. It's just a regular paragraph. The title style is just a regular paragraph to a screen reader. It has no semantic value. It has no meaning behind the scenes. So in this case, we want to make sure that the user knows what this document is all about. And because the number one way a screen reader user will navigate a document is through headings, we are going to use headings to help a user navigate this document. So the heading level 1 is the title of the document. How many titles do you typically have in a document? Just one. So how many heading level 1 should you be using in a document? Again, just one. Not 2, not 3, not 0. Every document you're creating should have one heading level 1. It is the main subject of the document you're working in. Now, if I go down and we have a subject inside, of course, you'll have subjects inside your document. Let's say we're talking about headings in Word. In this case, this is a subject inside our heading level 1, right? Because the heading level 1 is the whole document. At that point, you're going to notice that Microsoft Word only has a heading level 2. There's no 3, 4, 5, 6 by default. However, this is Microsoft trying to make sure that you're using headings properly. If I choose heading level 2, you're going to notice heading level 3 will appear. And you might be like, you know what? I don't really like the way the heading level 2 looks. I'm going to use a heading level 3. Well, at that point, you just made your document less accessible. You should never be skipping heading levels, especially just because you don't like the way it looks. If you don't like the way a heading level looks, don't worry. you can change the way they look. And we'll take a quick look at how to do that. But you should never be skipping heading levels. The reason for that is for JAWS and NVDA screen reader users, they have specific shortcut keys that become available to them once the screen reader is on. And they can actually navigate by specific heading levels. So by pressing the number 2 on their keyboard, it's going to go find the next heading level 2. By pressing number 3 on their keyboard, it's going to go find the next heading level 3. Now they can also press the H key, will go find any heading, the next heading level. Doesn't matter what level it is. Okay, so there's a lot of different shortcut keys that become available to them, but they'll only be able to use these shortcut keys the right way if you're using these headings properly. So in this case, because I didn't use a heading level 2 yet, this document is a little problematic for some people with using screen readers to actually understand, potentially navigate as well. So again, we're not skipping heading levels. So I have a heading level 1, a heading level 2. Now in this case, if I have a subject of my subject, so heading in Word, okay, I'm going to talk about a subject in heading in Word, so it's a sub-subject at that point. I'm going to call this one heading level 1s in Word. So at that point, this is a sub-subject to my subject here. Because this is not a new subject, okay, it's actually a subject of my heading level 2, I'm actually going to make that a heading level 3. Okay, I'm just going to switch my keyboard language here. There we go. Now, if I scroll down a little bit more, okay, I have a brand new topic. So this is no longer part of heading in Word. This is a new topic. So I'm going to go ahead and call it tables in Word. Now at that point, some of you might be, okay, well, this is a 1, that's a 2, that's a 3, this is a 4. No, this is not a 4. This will be a heading level 2. It's a new subject that's the same level as heading in Word. Because we've done this now, a screen reader user could actually navigate and say, learning Microsoft Word accessibility, read this paragraph, get to this heading in Word, and be like, you know what, I don't really care about heading in Word. What's the next subject? And they could bypass this paragraph, this heading, this paragraph, and jump straight to here. So they would skip all of this and jump right here. So just like the rest of us that can visually see, we don't typically read every single word, even though, you know, sometimes we probably should. We don't really read every single word of a document. We jump around, we scan, we skim, we're looking for something that we're actually interested in. Well, we do that quickly with our eyes. For visually impaired users, they do that with the headings. So it's really important that the heading structure of your document is set up properly. Now, one of the ways you can make sure that you do not skip heading levels, that you do not bypass heading levels, is by turning on your View tab. And in your View tab, you'll see the navigation pane here. The navigation pane could be a great way to visually see all your headings in your document. And if you ever see a major indentation, so for example, let's say I go to this heading level 1s in Word, which is a heading level 3, and I make it a heading level 6 here. Take a look at this indentation. That's way too big. Something's up here, okay? We're going from a heading level 2 to something else that's way too deep, okay? This makes no logical sense in this case. So again, this little navigation pane can be a good indication of when something is up, when something's wrong. Now I'm just going to go ahead and create a couple more headings here just to give you a bit of an idea. Now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and call this one tables for styles, which we're going to talk about. I'm going to make that a heading level 3 because it's a subject of tables in Word. Okay, then merging tables. There we go. Oh, merging tables. Now in this case, is merging table a subject of tables and styles for styles? And the answer is no. but it's still a subject and table in Word. So this is going to be another heading level 3. Okay. I'm going to have another one here called merging cells. So this is a subject of merging tables. So I'm going to go ahead and make that a heading level 4. Now you can really start seeing that heading level 5s and 6 should be pretty uncommon, because a heading level 6 is a subject in 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 your main subject. I mean, it might happen if you're writing some sort of law document or scientific discovery, but if you have a lot of heading level 5s and 6, you might want to rethink the way you're actually creating your document. Okay? Because again, those are a lot of subjects inside subjects, right? So again, it could happen, but they should be pretty far in between for heading level 5s and heading level 6. Now, if I go down one more time here, and we have a brand new topic, it's not related to tables. You can see on the left side, tables, that's our heading level 2. This is going to be images in Word, and this will be back a heading level 2. So you're building your document with these headings to help visual users as well. It's easy way to visually see which topic is more important or a bigger topic than the others. But as well as a screen reader user will now be able to navigate through these headings. Now, one last quick thing about headings here is that you can change the way they visually look, right? That's another part of using headings that's obviously appealing, is that it's effective to quickly change, let's say, all the heading level 2s. I could right click on the heading level 2. You could actually see how many times you're using it by saying select data. And then at this point, you can actually see how many times you're using all these headings. So I'm using heading level 2 3 different times. If I want to modify them, okay, at any point in time, I can right click on this style and hit modify, change the way they look with a nice dark color. Of course, color contrast is something you have to worry about in accessibility. I'm not going to make it bold, but I might increase the font size here a little bit. And you'll see that all 3 of them have now changed to be green with slightly bigger font size. Another advantage of using these styles properly is that if I create a page break all the way to the top of the page here, Control Enter, I now have the ability to go to the first page here and potentially go to my reference tab at the top, move my way all the way to the left, and use automatic table 1 or automatic table 2 to create a table of contents very quickly. Now you are going to notice that my heading level 1 is here, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2. Now you might be saying, Mike, the heading level 4 you use is not appearing in your table of contents. That's true. It doesn't actually appear by default. You can, however, go in your custom tables in your reference tab under table of contents, custom table of contents, at which point you can change how many levels you actually be displaying in your table of contents. So at the bottom here, show levels, I changed that from 3 to 6. Just in case I ever need 6, click OK. Replace the table of contents, absolutely. And you can see that heading level 4 has now appeared on this table of contents. Now again, in the Microsoft Word class, we talked about how you could actually remove the heading level 1 from your table of contents, move all your heading level 2's indentations to the left, but we don't quite have that time here today. But once again, the heading in your document is really, really important that you actually structure them properly, that you don't skip heading levels. Do you understand that when you actually go a level down, it's a subject of the subject you're already in? So for example, here again, tables for styles is a subject of table in Word. Okay, so is merging tables, it's a sibling. Okay, so again, that is the quick little overview here of headings. Probably the most important element to really understand and understand well when building Microsoft Word documents. Now, of course, another thing that we're talk about quite a bit is images. So I'd like to move on to images here quickly. We're going to go to the Insert tab, and I'm just going to go ahead and insert a picture here. And some of you might guess what picture I'm going to go with at this point in time. It is, of course, a vehicle. Now I'm going to go ahead and reduce the size of this here a little bit. And in Office 365, there's this cool new feature called alt text, okay, at the bottom here, which has actually been around forever, okay? But Office 365 is the first version that actually displays it temporarily to visual users. I repeat, it displays it temporarily for visual users. Once I click away, that alt text is gone, okay? But it's not really gone. It's actually behind the scenes. And this alt text is for visually impaired users that cannot see the document to understand what this image is about. And in Office 365, Microsoft finally added a really easy way to add and manipulate alt text. In this case, I would just select the image. You can see the alt text is gone visually. Again, alt text is not for visual users. It's for screen readers to announce to a visually impaired user what this image is all about. And in this situation, I can quickly click on the alt text at the top inside the picture format tab that appears. If I'm not on the picture, of course, that tab doesn't appear. I select the image here, okay? Once I select the image, the picture format appears, and the new button here called alt text makes it nice and easy to click on. And finally, Microsoft figured out that we only need one box here for alternative text. Now, it did try to generate the alt text automatically. I'm not a big fan of this feature personally because there's a good chance that people will just leave it at that, and there is such a thing as incorrect alt text. There's, of course, a little bit of gray area with alt text, but here's some information about alt text. You should never exceed 120 characters. You should aim for less than 100. Now, when I say aim for less than 100, I'm not saying aim for 100. Say less, short, sweet, and to the point. Now, you might be tempted to remove that, which is not a problem. And then put something like this: image of Tesla Model 3 in Toronto. Now, there's one major problem here with this, is that you do not use the words image of, picture of, graphic of in the alt text. Why? Because the screen reader already does this. So you saying it's an image is repetitive and redundant. VoiceOver will actually use the word image. So you'd actually hear image of Tesla Model 3 in Toronto image. JAWS and NVDA, the older version, used the word graphic, so you'd hear graphic image of Tesla Model 3. You don't need to say image of, picture of, graphic of to describe the image in the alt text. Another word that I really want you guys to avoid in alt text is C. Okay? Now in this situation, it doesn't make sense either way, but do not use the word C in alt text. You're telling visually impaired users that cannot see the C. A better word, if you need to use a word similar to C, is refer. Refer to table that follows. Refer to long description. Those are better ways to actually, better words to use. Okay. So in this case, I would probably just say Tesla Model 3 in Toronto. Now, you're asking, is it important to say it's in Toronto? Well, that's up to you to decide. Like I said, there is a bit of gray area, a little wiggle room to kind of play with when it comes to alt text. But there is such a thing as incorrect alt text. Typically, you don't want to use redundant information either. You don't want to repeat information that is coming up next or was already mentioned. Short, sweet, to the point. Don't use image of, graphic of to describe the image as an image. Now, there's a great website that you can actually go to find out even more information about alternative text. Not only what is appropriate alt text, but what is alt text that you should avoid as well. And this is a website called Webaim, and all they do is talk about accessibility. It is a very respected website in the accessibility community as well. So here in this example, for example, we have an image, and it's Ellen Orchea in her astronaut suit. And the content below reads, as the first Hispanic woman to go into space and later the first Hispanic director of Johnson Space Center, Ellen Orchea is widely regarded as a role model. What would be appropriate alternate text in this situation? Astronaut Ellen Orchea, image of Ellen Ochoa astronaut, Ellen Ochoa the first Hispanic woman to go into space, or an empty alt attribute, meaning the image will be ignored by the screen reader, also known as a decorative image. In this situation, there's 3 incorrect answers. The correct answer could be tweaked, could be changed a little bit, but the other 3 are completely incorrect. The second option, as we just talked about, says image of. You do not say image of. The third option is repeating the same information that is coming up in the next paragraph. It's also incorrect because there's nothing in the image itself telling me she's the first Hispanic woman to go into space. At that point, you're passing along more information to the visually impaired user than the visual users themselves. And this image is completely related to the content. And if the image is related to content, and some of you might actually know who that is just by looking at it, that's context right there. So if the image is related to content, and it's clearly not a decorative image, you should always provide alternative text. So in this case, the answer is astronaut Ellen Ochoa. And you might be saying, why? That's just your opinion. Well, actually, no, that's not just my opinion. Like I said, this is on a website, okay? Webaim, that's all they do, talk about accessibility, and exactly the reason I gave you are right below here, okay? So this is the one link I do want to share with you here today, just because of how useful it is here. So I'll actually throw that in the chat, okay? Highly recommend that you bookmark that, kind of look into it a little bit. If we jump back into Microsoft Word here, the next thing I want to talk about, I'm just going to close the alt text here. By the way, there is a way to make an image decorative in 365. This is new to 365, wasn't available if you're still on 2016. That's not there. By the way, if you're on 2016, you'll see 2 different boxes, the title and the description. Ignore the title box. You put your alt text in the description, and definitely do not repeat it. Okay, I've seen people copy paste it twice. At that point, the screen reader will actually read it twice. It's not good. But yeah, in 365, there's a new option marked as decorative, although decorative images in a Word document should be pretty rare. So I'm going to go ahead and close this window here. And another thing that you might be interested in doing in Microsoft Word is wrap text. The problem with wrap text is now the screen reader has no idea when to announce this image. Am I announcing this image after you, after insert, after different? It doesn't know, okay? So one of the things you can't do, if you're going to leave this document as a Word document, you cannot use wrap text. Okay, it has to be in line with text, the first option. If you are going to export it to a PDF or export it to HTML, technically this could be made accessible. In the PDF, you'd have a little bit of work to do to tag it in the right location. And in the HTML world, again, the developer would be able to actually use wrap text to make it accessible. But in the if you were to make this Word document accessible, it would need to be in line with text. Okay. So I might decide to put it down here. And then maybe center it. There's no problem centering this image. Okay. There's no problem if you want to use picture styles as well. Okay. Some of them are a little too much in my opinion, but that's okay. All right. I know it's going at a fast pace. We only have 40 minutes. So again, if you have any questions, we're going to be here after the session is done to answer any questions you guys might have. Next up here, we want to talk about tables. Tables are not for styling purposes. Too many times I open a Microsoft Word document for an audit or to convert to accessibility, and I see someone that did something like this. They press enter, they went, we want a 2-column layout here, so we're going to go insert, page, table, 1 row, 2 columns, grab this paragraph by triple clicking, dragging here, triple click, clicking here. Maybe we remove the border as well. Border is gone. Yay, look, we have a 2-column layout, right? Well, not only is it pretty ugly when it comes to the alignment or lack thereof, but this is not accessible. It's 2022. You shouldn't be using tables for styling purposes anymore. There's other ways to do this, faster ways. Don't believe me? Let's do the same thing the right way. We're going to go ahead instead, a couple undos here, select these two paragraphs. I'm going to go to my layout tab, and I'm going to change this to 2 columns. First of all, that was faster, but second of all, this document is still accessible. There's nothing wrong with actually using tables for data-driven content, but you do not use tables for styling purposes. It's still a very common practice in the Microsoft world to use tables for styling. But the problem is it's not accessible. A screen reader will have a hard time understanding the table because the table is not meant for a table. The table is meant for styling. Now, if we were to create a table that's data-driven, that's fine. We're going to go Insert, Table, 4x4. We're going to go Models, Seats, Acceleration, and Price. We're going to go with Model 3, Model X. Actually, let's go Model S and then Model X. We'll go 5 seats, and then 6 seats. We'll go 3.2 seconds, 0 to 60 miles. We'll go 1.99 seconds, which is still mind-blowing, right? And then we'll go with 2.8 seconds here. Now, in this situation, let's just put some prices here. You could technically buy one as low as 65. That one's a little bit more, and this one even a little bit more, right? So we have a table here, and there's nothing wrong with this table. This table is built to be an accessible table. It's data-driven. The content below is related to the heading. The content below is really related to the heading. The content below is related to the heading. Again, data-driven content doesn't mean numbers, right? We have text here, okay? So again, in this situation, we have an accessible table. One of the things you want to make sure that you do, however, is that your header row at the top left here in your table design tab, again, if you're not in your table, that tab is not available. You want to make sure that you're in your table, that tab becomes available, and you want to make sure the header row is turned on. Now, of course, we can style it, no problem. Visually, that's fine. We do need to worry about color contrast, but we don't really have the time to go into color contrast here today. And then we have an accessible table. Now, some of you are tempted to do this. You know what? We have a 5 and a 5 here. I'm going to remove this 5, and I'm going to merge these 2 cells together. You know, you can even style it however you want, okay, like so. And you're going to be like, okay, that's good. Well, once again, you made your document less accessible than it could be. You are better off to repeat the same information twice than merging cells together. So here's the thing. Yes, data-driven tables are accessible, but as soon as you start merging cells together, you're making your table significantly more difficult for somebody that's using a screen reader to navigate, or maybe even a keyboard user. Okay, so you're better off to avoid merging cells when it's avoidable. Sometimes merging cells is unavoidable. I understand that. And if it's unavoidable, it's unavoidable. But in this situation, it's definitely avoidable. I can literally just repeat the same information again instead, which makes this a more accessible document because this table is more accessible. Okay. Now, one of the things I would also be careful at is empty paragraphs here. This is a thing in Microsoft Word. When you add a table, it adds an empty paragraph. Don't believe me? I'm going to turn on the paragraph marker. There's that empty paragraph. When you actually have empty paragraphs like this, a screen reader will actually read blank, blank, blank. So we don't want to hear blank, blank, blank. So we're going to remove empty paragraphs. And if you want a little bit more space between your table and your content, you're going to do it the right way. You're going to go to the Layout tab, and you're going to increase the space before this paragraph. Now, for consistency purposes, I probably want to use 8. So that's what I'm going to put here. I'm going to put manually 8. Okay, so now we have exact same amount of space here and here. And there you go, tables. Now the last thing I want to talk about today, is exporting options. And it is so important if you are going to export to PDF that you do not leave it to just the default settings, because that PDF is far from being accessible at that point. However, if your Word document is accessible and you export it properly to PDF, that PDF is pretty close to being accessible. If not potentially, depending on how complicated the document is, it could be accessible without you doing anything. So in this case, we're going to go to the File tab to export this document. Using the export, I'm going to go to change file type or just choose PDF, either way. But I'm going to have this window that pops open, which is the window I really care about. Okay, now some of you would be like, well, don't you want to print to PDF? Again, in this case, it really doesn't matter. Again, I just typically export to PDFs. This is the window that really is important here. If we were to export to our desktop, we want to make sure that we choose PDF drop down here. That's really important. And then this is the option you need to click on. Okay, you can't not click on this. You want that PDF to be as accessible as possible. You click on options, and by default here, it's going to look a little bit more like this. Okay, it does remember from the previous time you've saved it, so that's the nice thing about it. But you should always confirm that the next few settings are turned on. First and foremost, create bookmarks using headings. All the work that you've done using your heading styles, you want to make sure that when you actually export to a PDF, that work is preserved. This will help a PDF user navigate, all users, not just visually impaired users, by the way. That's just good user experience. So when you're making your document more accessible, you're creating a better user experience at the same time for all users. The next one is the document properties. You want to export the document properties. If you've changed it, you definitely might as well do that. It helps a user understand what the document is before they even open it. The most important one is this one right here, document structure tags. The headings will be exported as headings. The image will be exported as an image. The table will be exported as table. If this is not turned on, that PDF is so far from being accessible, it's not even funny. A screen reader user would actually have to go through every single paragraph to be able to digest everything, because they can't navigate via headings at that point. They can't navigate via tables at that point. And even for visual users, it could be problematic for them to navigate, or keyboard users, it could also be problematic for them to navigate. So this is by far the most important option here that needs to be turned on. This makes all the work that you've done in Microsoft Word pass through to the PDF so that you don't have to do it all over again in the PDF. Now, if you are not going to modify that PDF, you're done, you're going to publish that PDF right away, then I do recommend that you turn on PDFA. PDFA stands for accessibility. If you are going to modify the document some more, maybe tweak it a little bit more, then at that point, you don't have to make PDFA here, because you'll actually have to turn it off to be able to modify the PDF document. But if you're done, okay, this is the settings you need to set when you're exporting to a PDF. I'm actually going to leave it there for a second if you want to take a screenshot, because that's how important it is to export to PDFs properly, the right way. Last thing is naming the document properly. Please, it's 2022. The 2002 01 00000 hyphen FR hyphen internal. Those are terrible naming conventions. Okay, for a user, they have no idea what this document is until they open it. They should know what the document is before they open it, and the name of the file is obviously going to help that significantly. So in this case here, we are learning. Now, because this is actually going to end up on the web, I don't want to use any spaces, so I'm going to use a hyphen instead to separate words. This will help screen readers understand that learning is a word is another word, and then accessibility is another word. Okay, so in this case, there's 3 different words, and voila. for search engine optimization, hyphen is another really good way to name files on the web. You publish it, and voila, okay? We have a document exported to PDF that's accessible. All right, so I know that's a lot in 40 minutes to digest, to absorb. Is there any questions that you would like to ask at this point in time? I see a hand. I'm going to enable your microphone here. Paul, unmute Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, we basically come here trying to find out the PDF. Like somebody else from our organization recommend this training session is kind of identical. However, we are trying to looking for the PDF, like accessibility, that kind of thing. So the Ontario government, we are the provincial government agency. They asking for the AODA like 2.0, WCAG compatible, that kind of thing. So we kind of trying to go with the PDF file to meet that WCAG 2.0 compliances. So we kind of wondering, like, which is, I think, is there any like a similar training for the PDF file, how to do that and how to test that, how to, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that I can definitely share with you. That's not a problem. We definitely offer PDF courses for accessibility. So if we go jump here, you'll see that we offer quite a few different ones depending on what you're interested in. So if you're working with Forms, we have it. If you're working with Foxit or Adobe Acrobat, we have that as well. So that
Adobe Acrobat, yeah, we basically want to, I don't know, like we need to dynamically generate that. Basically, we want to use Adobe Workbench, that kind of thing. The Acrobat Pro is not a solution for us, basically. So.
Okay. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to. Hi, Paul. This is Craig from Eliquo. I can help you out with that. I can give you some information or help you sort of walk through your situation and understand your options.
Yep.
If you'd like, I'll send you a quick email. You're from Agricor?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll send you a quick email afterwards, and we can set up a time for a phone call, and I'll give you some options about, like you said, about different PDF factors or Adobe's, other PDF options.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. You guys located in Toronto, right?
Yeah. Well, we train anywhere. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Whichever. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. I'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Very good. Now we have a few other questions here in the chat here. Is this being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded. We'll, Craig, you think we can make this?
Yeah, we're gonna publish it. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
yeah, it'll be
definitely fast paced.
Put it up on the YouTube channel.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll be sharing that with you guys. Next up here, I was told accessibility course that centering text is frowned upon. Again, in this case, when a screen reader user will not have a hard time understanding. It's just going to ignore that it's being centered. So when it comes to screen reader users, it's not an issue. For readability, again, you can make a debate that content aligned to the left is easier to read. For images, again, you're not reading an image, so again, at that point, it's not that big of a deal. But if you want to increase readability, yes, aligning it to the left, everything to the left makes it more readable. So that is correct. When it comes to the H1, like I said, it's highly recommended that you have one heading level 1, not 2, not 0, not 3, one heading level 1, especially if this is going to be a web document, okay? Because a web document, again, could be potentially converted to an HTML file at one point in time, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but at one point. And in the HTML world, you really do want just one heading level 1, not just for accessibility, but as well for search engine optimization and just for common practice. So again, for so many reasons, even though technically you can have more than one heading level 1, it's not the best practice. As for Government of Canada, yeah, most branches are now using Foxit. Yeah, very good, Penny. Is there a way to remove title styles from Microsoft Word to prevent? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's lots of different ways that you can potentially restrict what style a user could do. That's actually something we learn or teach, I should say, in our Microsoft Office class. So if that's something that's interesting for you, then yeah, absolutely. The Office class will be showing you how to do that. In Excel, accessible with no merged cells. Not sure what that. You try to avoid merged cells in Excel as well, if that's the question. Yes. Deb, I see your hand is risen up. I'm just going to go ahead and unmute you. If you want to ask a question, you're more than welcome to.
Oh, hi. I think you mean me, Deborah.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question. We do a lot of articles that are kind of editorial, like in design as well. But in everything we do, we add our own photography that we source from Getty Images, or whatnot. And a lot of times we won't add those an alt text to those because we consider those to be unnecessary for a screen reader to describe it, because it's not going to help them understand the content of the article. It was more like a secondary image. So for those images, what would you recommend?
Are the images just they're complementary? They're not part of the content? Is that what you're saying? Like they're not related to the content?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just to, like, if you've got an article about the environment, there might be a picture of a tree in the background to highlight or make it
that could be
more editorial.
It could be considered a decorative image at that point.
Okay, good.
Right. So if you're never sure, right, if you're not 100% sure an image is decorative, you are better off to fall under the provide alternate text versus no alternate text. But if you're pretty sure it's decorative, that's okay. Yeah, absolutely, you can make it decorative.
Thank you.
Very good. Kathleen is up next. Kathleen, if you want to enable your microphone, you're more than welcome to.
There, am I now unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Perfect. So I was the one who typed the question about Excel. So the question is Excel in its fundamental aspects and accessible? You went through the tables in Word, and I'm just, wondering if there's anything special that has to be done to an Excel file or whatever to make it accessible.
There's about 4 to 5 unique things in Excel to try to make Excel as accessible as it can be. The reason I phrase it this way is because Excel by itself is quite difficult to use with a screen reader. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is there techniques that you can use to make that document more accessible? Again, absolutely. There's about everything that we've talked to Microsoft Word that applies in Excel will, of course, apply there as well. But there's about 5 or 6 different unique techniques that we teach in our PowerPoint and Excel class for accessibility. It's a combined class that we talk about both softwares to make those documents as accessible as they can be. And yeah, there's about 6 techniques that you can definitely use to make Excel documents more accessible.
So if Craig is listening, could he send, or you, Mike, could you guys just send me a link to that training, please?
Absolutely.
I'm here, Kathleen. Yeah, I'll reach out to you, okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is a blank alt tag the same as an empty bracket? Are you talking about in Microsoft Word or in the web world? Because that's a little different. There, nothing in the box, okay, is, again, in 2016, that's all we had. So you would leave the box empty, Okay, but in Office 365, you definitely want to mark it as a decorative image if that's what you want to do. That's for Julie. In the web. Okay, so very good. So in the web world, in that situation, an empty alt with the double quotes, for example, alt equals double quotes, meaning there's nothing in it, is the same as alt with no equal double quotes. But no alt at all is not the same. If you're missing the alt tag altogether at that point, it will read the name of the file, including the extension, which is always incorrect. So great question, Julie. That would be very, very bad if you had no alt attribute at all.
Anything else there, Mike?
Nelly, I'm just reading more question. I apologize.
Okay, sorry.
Nelly, PDF, PowerPoint, Excel, absolutely. Craig will be on that for you. Glad that you guys are getting a lot out of this. It's very, very, I'm very happy about that. I think Deb has another question, I believe. Let's try to unmute.
So is this Nelly? Okay, yeah, I got Nelly. From ESDC?
Yes. Unmute Deb. Your hand is still up if it's a previous question.
Oh, no, sorry, no,
Good.
no question.
Okay, Kathleen. Let's see if Kathleen, the hand doesn't go down automatically. That's why. So I just want to double check. Okay, perfect. Perfect. I think we got a question, Craig, if you want to take over.
All righty. And here I am. All right, thank you, Mike. That was awesome. I hope everyone enjoyed the presentation. I hope you found it beneficial. Really, you know, it's always nice to get those questions afterwards. You know, it's nice to see that there's good interest in accessibility, and certainly appreciate everyone taking the time out to join us. Yeah, so there's going to be a survey following up here. Again, if you can provide us with some feedback, as well as some, you know, your preference for any other sort of subject matters that you're looking for. And if you have any questions at all, you can always reach out to us for any other types of support. So yeah, with that being said, thank you very, very much for attending, and we hope to see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.